I'd be curious to know, and we'll ask you, we're not going to do this all day, but we'll take some callers on that. How many of you have left Fox for CNN? And I don't mean you like CNN. CNN's still liberal. But how many of you feel betrayed by Fox, so you've left? Or you just don't watch them as much anymore? That's what the statistics show. And the ratings numbers in TV are actually easier to gauge than in radio, because the ratings box is right on the TV. So I'd be curious to know, but facts are facts. CNN ranked #1 in cable news in prime time in April, and they beat Fox. And it's because of you. It's because Fox has become the Trump super PAC. And there are other Trump super PACs out there. And in time, they will be addressed, and in time, there will be a backlash to them. I'm certain of it. Whatever the outcome of this race, the outcome of this race is of no consequence in terms of you losing confidence in many of these outlets, and many individuals, for that matter. So I thought that's fascinating. I didn't see this anywhere else. CNN put this release out. I think it's a CNN release. Yes, it is. Sent to me by 3, 4, 5 different people. CNN narrows gap with Fox in total day to smallest in over 7 years as well. So CNN's having a big uptick. A big uptick.
Dead man walking.
And by the way, all cable, subscription-wise, is down. So the universe of cable subscribers is way down. But within that universe of subscribers, CNN is beating Fox. CNN's beating Fox in April. It's the end of April, so they would know. And I want to get to this John Boehner. And we'll return to it also in the second hour. This guy is an ugly drunk. He just is. The stories about this guy are manyfold. The fact that he held out as speaker as long as he did is amazing. You know, Republicans have a bizarre way of choosing their speakers. I'm not talking about process, but who they choose. Denny Hastert, we now know, was a child molester. Now you got Boehner, a boozer. Gingrich is out there all over the place, slobbering all over his new friend Donald Trump. Just saying. They're saying it's very bizarre. So when you hear people talking about who's the establishment candidate, everybody is positioning who the establishment is, who the establishment is not. Oh, it's got to be Cruz. Look, I mean, look at Cruz. He made a deal with Kasich. Meanwhile, Krispy Kreme is standing behind Trump. That's different. No, it's not. And his wife is making eyes like, oh, God, there he is going off on women again. And she's rolling her eyes. And Christie, so scared of his new boss, Donald Trump. All today in some press conference going on, or press event. No, she wasn't rolling her eyes at him. No, she's rolling her eyes at me. She was looking at me, rolling her eyes at me. No, it's my fault. Donald, don't take it out of him. Donald, it's my fault, Donald. Like we're dealing with the mob here. Incredible. So John Boehner was attacking Cruz in a very vile way, and somehow the Fox News channel, a.k.a. the Donald Trump Super PAC, acquired the audio. It'll be hard to hear, but I'll let you know what he's saying if you can't hear it. Let's go to cut 10, Mr. Producer. Go.
Lucifer in the flesh. Say Democrat friends back, Republican friends, I get along with almost everybody. But I have never worked with a more miserable set of...
What a pathetic excuse for a human being, this John Boehner. Cutting deals with Kennedy throughout his career, cutting deals with Barack Obama, cutting deals with Nancy Pelosi, putting wet ones on her cheek, crying like a big baby, on and on and on. You know, surrendering the Constitution, surrendering the economy to Barack Obama, a failed speaker if there ever was one. You gave him a majority in the House of Representatives. You gave him the speakership. And look what he did. Lucifer in the flesh, the former speaker said of Ted Cruz. I have Democrat friends and Republican friends. I get along with almost everyone. But I've never worked with a more miserable son of a bee in my life. Not even Ted Kennedy, huh, Johnny? Now, as the Stanford Daily, the college newspaper, reports, because this was at Stanford, Boehner described other Republican candidates as his friends. In particular, he said he has played golf with Donald Trump for years and that they were texting buddies. Texting buddies, they played golf for years. You know, just a great guy. Cool guy, and that's what matters. They played golf, they got along, texting buddies. The fact that Trump was subsidizing, the Democrats when this fool was Speaker of the House. The fact that Trump was subsidizing Democrats when this fool was the Republican leader in the House, compare that. No consequence. He got to play golf.
Let's settle this.
His friendship with Ohio Governor John Kasich, a little more ambiguous. Kasich requires more effort on my behalf than all my other friends. But he's still my friend, and I love him. So I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, from John Boehner's vile, alcohol, laced lips to your ears. One quintessential Mr. Establishment, quintessential Mr. Big Government, quintessential Mr. Sellout Republican is trashing Cruz and praising Trump and half praising Kasich. What do you draw from that? What do you draw? Does not matter. Well, it does matter to a lot of us.
I got no
Ted
time.
Cruz responded to this. Ted Cruz to it with the important. How you doing, Mr. Producer, don't you think? Here he is. Yeah, here he is. Cut. Well, let's see. Cut 4. Go.
Comments. Something like the worst that you've ever worked with. No, there was that too. But the interesting thing is, he said that I never worked with him. I've never worked with him. The truth of the matter is, I don't know. I've met John Boehner 2 times in my life. If I had said 15 words in my life to John Boehner, I'd be surprised, and every one of them has consisted of pleasantries. Good to see you, Mr. Speaker. I've never had any substantive conversation with John Boehner in any respect. And indeed, this is something that's not publicly known. During the government shutdown, I reached out to John Boehner, and I offered for Mike and Lee and me to come over and work with the Speaker. Can we resolve this and actually get something meaningful done to stop the disaster that is Obama? John Boehner's response was, I have no interest in talking to you. What possibly could be accomplished by having a conversation? No, I will not be. So when he says that I'm the worst guy he's ever worked with, he's never worked with me.
Mm-hmm. He did work with you, Ted Cruz. You wouldn't know it. Probably slobbering all over himself and tripping all over himself at the same time. Press kept secrets about John Boehner because he was an effective big government Republican. Now, John Boehner, and Ted Cruz made another point. Cut 3, media ice, go.
John Boehner had some interesting comments last night. He actually didn't abbreviate. He said he was a little bit more expressive. He allowed his inner Trump to come out. You know, I will say this. If you're one who actually has stood up to Washington, I think John Boehner has made it crystal clear. John Boehner, in his remarks, described Donald Trump as his texting and golfing buddy. So if you want someone that's a texting and golfing buddy, if you're happy with John Boehner as Speaker of the House and you want a president like John Boehner, Donald Trump's your man. And by the way, Donald Trump gave John Boehner's super PAC $100,000 just a few years ago. Donald Trump has been funding John Boehner, and he's also been funding Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid. If you like what John Boehner, Nancy Pelosi, and Harry Reid have done, Donald Trump is your guy.
Mm-hmm. I want you to remember, folks, John Boehner, throughout his speech, which you delivered to him,
Executed.
had nothing but contempt for you. He despised conservatives. He'd get behind a microphone and attack conservatives and conservative organizations. His last budget deal, remember? Right after the election of the Republican Senate, he cut this massive deal with Barack Obama, massive spending. Even the current speaker, Paul Ryan, said, I wouldn't have cut that deal. Now he's lashing out. He's not lashing out at Trump. He's not lashing out at Kasich. He's lashing out at Cruz.
Always.
Cut 5, Mr. Producer, go.
To understand about Washington, actually, Boehner's comments reveal everything that is wrong and corrupt with Washington, everything that you're angry with. When John Boehner calls me Lucifer, he's not directing that at you. He's directing that at you. What Boehner is angry with me for is not anything I've ever said. I haven't said much of anything. What Boehner is angry is standing with the American people, is energizing and encouraging House conservatives to stand with the American people and actually honor the commitments we've made. What Boehner is angry with is that conservatives said, if we promise to repeal Obamacare, let's actually stand up and fight Obamacare. What Boehner is angry with is that we said, if we promise to stop amnesty, let's actually honor our promises and stop amnesty.
So here you have John Boehner, in his own way, endorsing Donald Trump and condemning Ted Cruz. Carly Fiorina was on the program yesterday, and she pointed out that Donald Trump, and correctly so, I pointed out the news article, was hiring almost exclusively foreign workers at Mar-a-Lago. And the local official there said, we have plenty of Americans who want those jobs. Many of you are being taken for a ride. Time to get off the horse. I'll be right back. Let's go to Margaret, Brooklyn, New York, the great WABC. Go.
Hi, Mark. Yes, I'm one of those people that used to watch Fox, and I do not watch it any longer. I can't stand to watch all these people fawning all over Trump. Now, to be honest, I like Cruz. I voted for Cruz. But if they were fair, I would listen. I would watch. You know, I could take it. I'm a grown-up. But the constant, they just fawn all day and night over. I just can't take it.
All right, my friend. Apparently a lot of people are with you. I think this is going to affect others, too. Fox, it'll affect some talk hosts, it'll affect some websites over time.
Partner.
It just will. Monty, Tulsa, Oklahoma, the great KFAQ. 20 seconds, go.
Evening, Mark. Mark, I tell you what, I'm so upset with Fox. It just makes me boil over. I don't know if you've ever saw the PJ Media guy, Alfonso Rachel. He watching his TV and he just gets up and he gets so ticked off that he just throws his remote at the TV.
All right, my friend. Appreciate your call. When we come back, you're not going to want to miss the analysis of Indiana. More on this and many other issues. We'll be right back.
This is Radio Free America on the Mark Levin Show. Call now, 877-381-3811.
Scott Rasmussen, how are you, sir?
I'm doing just great. How are you today?
I'm doing beautifully, thank you. Here I am in Florida. Can you beat that? No, not really. Now, you're president of a new company you started called STYRK, S-T-Y-R-K. Where does that name come from?
STYRK is a Danish word that means to empower, and, consistent with my life's work, we're talking about finding ways to empower the voice of everyday Americans. Going to be rolling out some interesting products towards the end of this year that I think you'll find interesting. And for right now, you can find my latest columns at styrk.com.
Well, and that caught my attention, Scott. Your latest column, you take a good look at Indiana. How are you looking at Indiana? What are you seeing there?
Well, let's put it in perspective. This is the state that really sets the tone for the rest of the year. If Donald Trump wins Indiana, he is going to be the Republican nominee. There is virtually no way to change that outcome. But if Donald Trump, if Ted Cruz can come back and win in Indiana, all of a sudden it changes the narrative of the race. There is nobody in the New York media world who thinks Cruz has a chance in Indiana. There's 57 delegates at stake. By the way the delegate rules work, the winner will come up with maybe 51, possibly even 54 delegates. The loser will end up with maybe 3 or 6. If Donald Trump cannot win Indiana, he will fall about 45. He'll lose 45 potential delegates. By my assessment, my estimates I've gone on a state-by-state basis, that would put him short of being able to get to 1,237 by the time the convention begins in Cleveland.
Even if he does okay or well or whatever in California?
Well, California is a very big state, very important, but there's 8 other states in between. Ted Cruz is going to win. If he wins Indiana, continues to do well, he will win in Nebraska, South Dakota, and Montana. The candidates will split to Oregon, New Mexico, and Washington. And with all of those states going along, what's happening this time is Donald Trump is losing potential delegates to get him to that total. Now, sure, if he has a blowout win and takes 172 in California, well, nothing can stop that. But I don't think we're going to see anybody clearing that many delegates. The way California works, there's 53 different congressional districts. Every district will award 3 delegates. It's a stupid system. Nancy Pelosi's district has as much say in terms of picking a Republican nominee as any other district in the state. But that's the system you're working with. So more than likely, if Trump wins California and Cruz has won Indiana, then we're heading to a very, very close race. They'll be fighting for every delegate, and you'll be hearing more rules and more stories about delegate fighting than we've ever heard before.
Do you have an assessment of what you think might happen next Tuesday in Indiana?
I don't have, I'm not in the polling business anymore, so I don't have all the data that I used to have in terms of what to expect. What I do think is that this is a state that prior to the last week, I would have said was very favorably disposed to Ted Cruz. The demographics work in his direction. To say that Donald Trump is not what you normally expect to see in Indiana is an understatement. But what we're starting to see is there is this aura of inevitability. Donald Trump is trying to cast it. He's trying to say he is the presumptive nominee. I think that's a week too early. He has to win Indiana to get there. But there are some people who are turning perhaps a little more of a receptive ear to him. I think the most concerning fact about Indiana, if you are hoping for anybody but Donald Trump as the Republican nominee, is the fact that Governor Mike Pence is being awfully quiet right now. The last time Ted Cruz had a big victory was up in Wisconsin. Governor Scott Walker was an enthusiastic supporter. The state party got behind Cruz. We're not seeing that same kind of action in Indiana.
What if Governor Mike Pence finally steps up, say tomorrow, the next day, says, you know what, I'm in the news? That make a difference?
It does make a difference. I don't know how much of a difference, but yes, there are people, always in a case like this, we're seeing a divided vote for people who don't want Trump. I think many Kasich supporters will end up supporting Ted Cruz. Why? Well, we saw that in Wisconsin. Ted Cruz's numbers were better than expected going into the election. Johnny Kasich numbers were weaker on Election Day, and the reason for that was there was strategic voting going on. Voters always want to make a difference, and in this internet era, we all know the stakes of each race. So yes, I think if you're in a situation like Indiana, and somebody like the governor comes out in a party election that says they're going to be strongly for Ted Cruz, it will encourage a few more people to get out and vote.
Carly Fiorina, she's popular with a lot of people out there. She may not have been their first or second choice, but maybe they're her third or fourth choice. It did change the media narrative a little bit, didn't it, when he selected her yesterday?
Yeah, I think it changed the narrative partly because It was something new to talk about, and that's clearly what the Cruz campaign was counting on. They're also counting on the fact, by the way, that she ran a very successful primary campaign in California 6 years ago, so that if we get to that point, they're hoping she can help win some delegates there. I think the other potential that Fiorina has in terms of affecting the Indiana race is she's there to bait Donald Trump into saying something that will cost him votes. He's been well documented in his dislike of her, how much she irritates him, and I think they're trying to push him and provoke him into saying something that will cost him.
Your point is, if Cruz wins or wins substantially in Indiana next Tuesday, this thing could get to a second and third and fourth ballot. And let me ask you that. It gets the second, third, and fourth ballot based on the analyses that I've been reading from conservative sites, liberal sites, every site in between. Cruz is running circles around the Trump machine on these delegates.
Absolutely. In fact, my point is, if Ted Cruz wins in Indiana next week, no matter what happens in California, we're going to be headed to a close delegate count. It'll either be a narrow Trump victory or a contested convention. If Cruz wins next week and does well, perhaps wins in California, then Donald Trump will probably be too far away to win the nomination. I do not believe we're going to be talking third or fourth ballot. I think if Ted Cruz does well enough down the stretch to prevent Donald Trump from winning on the first ballot, Cruz will win on the second. And, that's really hard to say, hard for people to get their mind around right now, because we're coming off of 2 weeks of very big wins for Donald Trump, and everybody's saying, oh my gosh, how could that be? How would that be so different? But if you make the assumption that Cruz does well and wins Indiana, and he does well in California and wins out there, he will end up winning perhaps 6 or 7 of the last 10 primaries. He will go in with some momentum, and that changes the whole feel of the race. Ted Cruz has been running circles around Trump, as you say, in the delegate selection process, and it would be a second ballot, and people will just be happy to have it over at that point.
Why do you think Trump and his campaign is so flat-footed on these rules in these different states? It's not like they're unknown. I mean, every guy running or gal running for president has to have the best people they can around them in order to ensure that that if it goes to a second or third ballot, they're going to get the nomination. I mean, all the talk about management skills and all the rest of it. How did this happen?
Well, let's take one part of it. Is Ted Cruz has been planning this for a long time. He got Jeff Rowe and a great campaign team to start the strategic planning for this a couple of years ago. They have been in touch with delegates. They are the class of the field in terms of delegate pursuit. When Donald Trump began his campaign, he did not have a traditional campaign staff of any kind. He ran on personality. And, there are some people who think he didn't expect to get the position he's in right now. It was very, very late in the process that he brought people on. And when you say everybody knows the rules, actually, I would think the opposite is true. The rules are so convoluted, the more that you get into them.
But wait, how did Cruz people know the rules? But
the Cruz people knew it was about delegates.
I know, but Trump can hire people who know it's about delegates. Right. People have been through Kennedy. In fact, he's hired this guy Manafort. He's done this for 35 years.
Right. Yeah, Paul Manafort was Gerald Ford's convention delegate. Was on his delegate team back in 1976. So he went through it in the last contested convention on the Republican side. He is an expert. He's also a lobbyist. He has had a long career. But Donald Trump didn't bring him in until very late in the game.
Why?
That's something you have to ask Mr. Trump.
Well, he won't come on the show anymore. I guess one of his buddies will have to ask.
Yeah, it was a strategic mistake. And look, his only hope right now, bluntly, is that it won't matter. The reason he's calling himself the presumptive nominee, the reason he is out there trying to create this aura of inevitability, is because if his personality and if his overall appeal is strong enough, he will have enough pledged delegates so that it won't matter. If it gets to the point, I've been telling people, if Donald Trump is within 30, 40, 50 pledged delegates of the needed total for the majority, he will probably get there. But if he's more short than that, it's not going to happen.
Very, very interesting. All right. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Scott.
It'll be a fascinating week. See what happens Tuesday.
No question about that. Scott Rasmussen, we appreciate your integrity, your objectivity, and God bless you.
Thank you, Mark. Have a great
All right. You too. And we'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
A lot of people out there going cuckoo. Absolutely cuckoo. Cuckoo. You know, liberals often dismiss the Constitution as 2 centuries old. They say it doesn't apply to the modern era. That couldn't be further from the truth, folks. Now you can get access to the Heritage Guide to the Constitution. Give you all the ammunition and time to live. Get your free access at askheritage.org. That's askheritage.org. The Constitution secures and protects America's freedoms. It defines the scope of the federal government. The Heritage Guide explains all this, and explains every single clause of the Constitution. The online edition contains almost 500 pages of analysis from more than 100 constitutional scholars, including the great former Reagan Attorney General Edwin Luce. Now you can get digital access to the Heritage Guide totally free of charge. Just go to askheritage.org to get instant access to the Heritage Guide to the Constitution. And if you're an American that loves liberty and wants to preserve it, please understand the Constitution. I don't know a better resource than the Heritage Guide to the Constitution. Get instant free access right now. Go to askheritage.org. By the way, tonight on Levin TV, we have one of the first outsiders, the founding father, if you will, of the outsider movement in the United States Senate at the time, Jim DeMint. A wonderful interview with Jim DeMint. We're going to spend an hour together, and I hope you'll check in. It talks about the election, talks about what's happening in the country, and so forth and so on. It's very compelling, very educational. If you haven't signed up yet, go to LevinTV.com. No commercials, and check it out. LevinTV.com. Boy, this Fox thing has a lot of you very, very disgusted. Debbie, Sandpoint, Idaho, the Mark Levin app. Go.
Hi, I was an avid Fox News watcher. I watched it from the time I got up to the time I went to bed. But last fall, it's kind of ironic, I stopped watching because even though I'm a strong Ted Cruz supporter, I stopped watching because of how they were treating Trump at the time. And so it's kind of funny that now it's turned into the Trump channel, but I was so mad. I just felt like they were trying to control our votes. They were trying to see what we were to think, how we were to react, how we were to perceive everything. And it just started to make me more and more angry. And so I started to taper off, and now I don't watch it at all anymore.
All right, my friend. Thank you. The numbers demonstrate what's going on over there. Abe, Pahrump, Nevada, on the Mark Levin app. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Mark. I love Fox News. I'll tell you what, all I listen to now is Levin TV, the Mark Levin Show.
What are you playing?
And, well, I can't even read any of these newspapers here in Nevada. They're pretty liberal. Actually, the Review Journal is Las Vegas Review Journal is more established than liberal. But,
What do you do, Abe?
huh?
What do you do out there in Pahrump, Nevada?
I'm retired. My wife works.
Feeling lucky.
That's a pretty good gig, Abe.
Yeah. Yeah, I got lucky.
Wow,
Got
you're
lucky
very
in
nice, man.
business, lucky in love.
There you go, brother. Well, God bless you. Stay cool out there. Thank you. John, Liberty Hill, Texas, Sirius Satellite. Go.
Hey, Mark. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've been boycotting
Easy, partner.
Fox for several months now, but really bad in the last 6 to 8 weeks. And mainly is much like the other callers that called in for a lot of the same stuff. But I used to be a big fan of Lou Dobbs on Business.
What are you playing?
And I tuned him in last night just
I have to admit, I've never watched Lou Dobbs on Business, quite frankly.
and so I got sick to my stomach, and I said, man, that's it.
Well, why? What was he doing? He wasn't, you know, what was he doing?
It's the patronization of it all. And
Here's what's going on. Here's what's going on. Fox's headquarters is in New York. A lot of these guys are very, very close friends or acquaintances of Donald Trump. Rupert Murdoch has endorsed Trump through the New York Post. Even a lot of these guys with websites, they're very, very good friends and acquaintances with Trump. Some of them worked in New York for some time. Some of them have business background, you know. And they're friends. And so they're going to do everything they can support him, conservative or not. It really doesn't matter. That's where they are. That's who they want. They want the access, whether it's business access, whether it's ratings, whether it's hits. And what's happening is there's pushback now. Because people like me are speaking out and saying, hey, what the hell's going on here? This is nonstop. And it did happen over time. They wanted Jeb Bush, then they wanted Christie, then they wanted Rubio, but it's clear the last 2.5, 3 months, it's been Trump, Trump, Trump. And by the way, it's never been proved. Never. So I think this is quite obvious at this point. The Fox News channel is really a kind of a rhino operation now, in my view. I think everybody's seeing it, and also they are tight with Trump. All this talk about how they get along and how they fight, that's within the family. It's within the family. All right, John, thank you for your call, my friend. Let's go to Lauren, Fort Myers, Florida, the great WSFX. Go.
Hey, Mark, I just wanted to say I stopped watching Fox a long time ago, and I'm a Trump supporter. I'll support whoever the nominee is, and if that's Cruz, then so be it. He'll have my vote. But I stopped watching them because I thought they were unfair to all of our candidates and made a spectacle of the debate. It was just the way that they pitted our candidates against each other was embarrassing.
So you think the first debate set the standard for many of the other debates and went downhill from there?
Absolutely. It was like a national enquirer debate.
Well, that's true. I think more and more so-called conservative media, putative conservative media, pseudo-conservative media is more and more national enquirer. Read the headline. All right, my friends, we shall plow ahead. I shall return.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, everybody. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. There's a miscreant in the House of Representatives. A miscreant, a very bizarre man. His name is Peter King.
I got no time for games.
He wears that hair of his. What is that cartoon? Woody the Woodpecker? He looks like Woody the Woodpecker. Maybe he is a woodpecker. I don't know. I certainly wouldn't make that accusation.
What are you playing at?
Peter King. Well, Peter King hates Ted Cruz. Do you know why Pete King hates Ted Cruz? Because when the money was being debated
Got any bright ideas?
to help the people as a result of the Sandy Hook hurricane, it was larded up with tens of millions of dollars having nothing to do with the hurricane or helping anybody affected by the hurricane. So Cruz said, I can't vote for this. All this other crap has to come out, then I will vote to help the people affected by the hurricane. Well, Pete King didn't like that. This bill the hardship of millions of people on the East Coast. Millions of people in New Jersey and New York, among other places. They use that hardship to find a way to spend billions and billions and billions of dollars more, having nothing to do with the people who were suffering from that hurricane. And Pete King and the others refused to pull out all that lard and crap out of that bill.
Let's settle
And they
this.
went on the attack.
Has been destroyed.
They attacked Mr. House.
An enemy has been slain.
Donald Trump was nowhere to be found, by the way. Johnny Kasich was nowhere to be found. That's why Boehner hates Cruz. That's why Pete King hates Cruz. That's why these insiders, these long in the tooth old bulls, these good for nothing, that's why they hate Cruz. More than willing to help people in need, but he's not willing to help crony capitalists and lobbyists and special interests and all the rest. And the backs of the people of New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut, and Pennsylvania, and other states affected by that hurricane. So John Boehner calls Cruz Lucifer in the flesh, the devil. Says I have Democrat friends, his former Democrat friend,
Feeling
in
lucky.
addition to Ted Kennedy and Nancy Pelosi, of course, was Donald Trump, his Republican friend. I get along with almost everyone, but I've never worked with a more miserable son of a bee in my life. And Cruz says, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I don't think we passed 50 words between the two of us. The miserable SOB, Boehner, is of course you. That's why you're not Speaker anymore. The people rose up and they pushed you out. And yet, ladies and gentlemen, look at the media outlets that are pointing to John Boehner as evidence that Ted Cruz is not the nominee of the Republican Party. It's amazing. Hey, you know, we're against the elitists. But they are the elitists. Of course they are.
Shut down. An ally has been slain.
Boehner described other Republican candidates as friends. In particular, he said he's played golf with Donald Trump for years and that they were texting buddies. You know, we used to call these country club Republicans. Now we call them men of the people. Oh, the men of the people.
Always trouble.
A billionaire with casinos and country clubs.
An enemy has
of
been
course,
slain.
makes a man. And of course, a drunk like John Boehner. He can pick them up. So it's a headline. John Boehner. Now, of course, most people would say, well, now, if Boehner
I
hates
got
this
no
guy,
time for games.
maybe I like that guy. Right? So here's Pete King on CNN today. Pete King, cut to, go.
I fully agree with John Boehner, and maybe he gives Lucifer a bad name by comparing him to Ted Cruz.
You see, this guy is a complete putz. He thinks he's very clever. He's a bizarro. So Cruz gives the devil a bad name. He would never say this about Barack Obama. He would never say this about Joe Biden. He'd never say it about Nancy Pelosi or Ted Kennedy. He'd never say it about Harry Reid. He'd never say it about Barack Obama. But he says it to Ted Cruz. Guy needs to be trying.
When he brought about the shutdown of the government.
Oh, woe is me, ladies and gentlemen. The government was shut down for 16 days. Oh, it was so horrific. Oh, the bridges were cut off. The subways were stopped. The checks were stopped. The plows were stopped. The grocery stores were shut. The trucks didn't. Oh, none of that happened?
An ally has been
The
slain.
government shut down. The guy stood up. The guy stood up to
An
stop
ally has been
Obamacare,
slain.
which is now imploding. It's destroying our country. It's dragging many of you to the financial nightmare that it is. Your deductibles are massive. Your policies don't cover what they used to cover. There's really nothing in the world. That policy you pay for, your employer pays for every single month. A chunk of that's going to people who don't even belong in this country. And Pete King didn't raise a damn finger to fight. Instead, when Ted Cruz went to the floor of the United States Senate and fought it, because the Republicans, to get elected in both houses, said, we will stop this thing, we will kill this thing, and he said, okay, boys, let's go, and they cut the legs out from under him. It was Pete King leading the effort to cut the legs out from under him. So if you've lost your doctor, if you lost your policy, if you can't afford health care and your deductible, you can blame Pete King. Because Pete King didn't do a damn thing. So the guy who stood up on the Senate floor and fought it, now he's worse than the devil. He's worse than Lucifer. Because he wouldn't go along. And Donald Trump seizes on this.
I ain't got time.
As he has in the past. Ted Cruz doesn't get along with him. Why the Donald I can get along with him? Money, I'll get along with him. Takes a little support, I'll get along with him. Maybe a flight on the jet, maybe a phone call, maybe more along. I get along. I'm the artist. I'm the deal maker, man. I can make deals. I can make deals. He's got to go to the Senate floor and say, in essence, no deals. He said no to Obamacare. He's attacked by the establishment in New York. He's attacked by the old media. He's attacked by the phony new media. He's attacked and attacked and attacked for standing up and doing exactly what you wanted him to do and all the others to do. He wouldn't do it.
Going to be able to take Obamacare out of the budget or to end Obamacare. Ted Cruz knew it never worked. That it was never going to work.
It would have worked, except the Republicans ran scared. It would have worked, but they ran scared. And Pete King led the effort.
Got any pride?
Pete King stuck out the facts. The island. Stuck out the facts. Do the right thing, folks. Do the right things, because in the end, it'll work out. And you can live it. And I believe one of the men who lives his life that way has become a very dear friend of mine. He is the most solidly conservative senator in the United States Senate. That's saying something. Is Senator Mike Lee. How are you, sir?
Great. Thank you very much, Mark.
Mike Lee, you see what John Boehner said about Ted Cruz at Stanford. You've heard what he had to say on CNN. It's pretty heavy, vile stuff, my friend. What is your response?
It's really vile stuff. And, you know, what perplexes me about this is that these are not words that I hear these gentlemen using in response to anyone else. I hear John Boehner heaping praise on Bernie Sanders, heaping praise on Hillary Clinton, heaping praise on Donald Trump. And yet for Ted Cruz, he calls him the devil. He calls him Satan. He calls him Lucifer. Why? The question is why? Why does he do this? Well, there's an answer. Ted Cruz actually challenges the system, the very same system that Donald Trump claims to rail against. And this is it. This is an insightful moment. I mean, first of all, I'm appalled with John Boehner. I have bit my tongue, held my tongue for years on John Boehner, even when I disagreed with him, because I respected him as a person and I respected his office enough to not call him out on it personally. I expressed disagreement with his policy, but I never ridiculed him personally. The fact that he has done this is appalling, and he should be ashamed of it, and I demand that he apologize. But more importantly, this is a wake-up call to the American people. This is a wake-up call to people who are supporting Donald Trump, thinking that he's the guy who's going to rail against the establishment. He's not. He is the establishment. He's the golfing buddy of John Boehner, the same guy who praises Hillary Clinton, who praises Bernie Sanders. And so if you're out there thinking that Donald Trump is somehow going to be the guy who takes down the establishment, think again. It's quite the opposite is true.
I've never heard you so angry. This has really fired you up.
I am vivid. Because to have him talk in those terms about my friend Ted Cruz, when he doesn't know Ted Cruz from Adam, Ted Cruz has probably never spoken more than 4 or 5 words to John Boehner in his life. And I'm confident that every one of those words was polite. And yet he goes out and calls him the devil. This is wrong. And this should be a wake-up call to everyone in America. In particular, I speak to my friends in Indiana. Anyone who's thinking about how to vote in Indiana on Tuesday, please vote for Ted Cruz. Get your friends and your neighbors out to vote for Ted Cruz. If you don't live in Indiana, if you live in a state where you've already voted, you can show your support for Ted Cruz and your revulsion for this vile statement of John Boehner by going to tedcruz.org and volunteer your time or your money or anything else you've got to offer. We have got to help make clear that Ted Cruz is the only man in this race who will actually fight against Washington establishment because Donald Trump is part of it.
You know, as somebody who knows Ted Cruz, Senator Mike Lee, there's been a real effort to destroy his reputation, to destroy his character, to redefine him. It's day in and day out. Why don't you tell my audience, which is significant, about the man that you call friend, the man who's been one of your closest colleagues in the United States Senate?
You know, the reason Ted Cruz is my friend is not just because he and I share a lot of similar interests or a similar professional background. It's not just because we share a lot in common politically. It is first and foremost because a friend tells you the truth, and a friend doesn't tell you the truth. And a friend will tell you the truth even when it's difficult. And that's who Ted Cruz is. I have never, ever seen Ted Cruz do anything other than what he said he was going to do. I have never seen Ted Cruz raise his voice in anger against his colleagues. I have never seen Ted Cruz engage in any of the despicable acts that I've seen him be the recipient of in recent weeks and months. And I've had it. I've absolutely had it. It is time for us to expose people like John Boehner, who are saying horrible things about him, for the fact that they are there. They're angry at him. They hate him because he's railing against the establishment of which they are a part. Now, look, I bear no personal ill will for John Boehner other than I want him to apologize. But in a sense, Mark, I'm grateful to John Boehner because John Boehner has exposed the truth here in a way that is far clearer. He's done this far better than I ever could. He has done that by saying, yeah, Donald Trump, he's great. I text with him. I golf with him. Yeah, Hillary Clinton, she's great. Bernie Sanders, he's great. But Ted Cruz, he's the devil. Why? Why, Mark?
Lucky.
The why is exactly what we need to focus on. The why here shows us why we have to do. The why is that Ted Cruz believes in the Constitution. They don't want to be stopped. That makes it harder for them to do what they want to do, which is to build, create more power in Washington, D.C. at the expense of everyone else.
Senator Mike Lee, your passion on this is quite commendable. I want you to listen to very briefly, the congressman from, mostly Staten Island, I guess, in part, not in whole. Let's go to cut 2, Mr. Producer. Go.
I fully agree with John Boehner, and maybe he gives Lucifer a bad name by comparing him to Ted Cruz.
Let's stop there. What? Can you believe this?
No, I really can't. I really can't. I'm stunned. But here again, you ask the question, why? Why do they hate him? Well, King, much like John Boehner has helped increase the size and the scope and the cost and the reach and the inclusiveness of the federal government. What has Ted Cruz done? Well, he's fought against all that. Ted Cruz believes in the Constitution. He believes in federalism. He believes in separation of powers. So these guys can tolerate everything. They'll praise Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, and they'll praise Bernie Sanders and all the other statists out there. But when Ted Cruz comes along, Ted Cruz preaches constitutional restraint, and they can't tolerate that because that exposes them to who they are. So there again, that tells us a lot. It tells us a lot about the character of Peter King and John Boehner, and it tells us a lot about why we should be supporting Ted Cruz and not Donald Trump.
Senator Michael, I want to thank you for your input on this. I appreciate it, sir.
Thank you very much, Mark. Good to be with you.
Good to be with you. God bless. No, I wasn't fishing for guests. Mike Lee was so furious at what took place, he has to come on the program. And I don't blame him. And if you're a conservative, any type of conservative, with 1 ounce of integrity, you should be furious, beyond furious, for what John Boehner said and has tried to do, and what Pete King has said in this absolute disgusting effort at character assassination. And all the phony media outlets that join in. Because this is an attack on you. Hard-working, tax-paying American citizens who've had enough. And so many are being taken for a ride. So many are being sold a scam. Well, not here and not now. I'll be right back.
This is the nation's town hall meeting, and you can join in at 877-381-3811.
There's no one quite like Mom. And with Mother's Day just around the corner, surprise her with something unexpected. And as unique as she is, Sherry's Berries. And today only, you can get freshly dipped strawberries from Sherry's Berries and 1 dozen assorted roses for $39.99 plus shipping. 2 perfect gifts, all from one place. Now these huge, fresh, delicious berries are dipped in milk, white, and dark chocolatey goodness, then topped with rich chocolate chips, chopped nuts, and signature swizzles. I tell you, my mouth is watering like a liberal looking at Hillary Clinton. Plus, beautiful, vibrant flowers with a 7-day freshness guarantee. It's the ultimate Mother's Day gift. It really is. And satisfaction is always guaranteed or your money back. Here's the only way to get this incredible 1-day deal. Freshly dipped strawberries plus 1 dozen assorted roses for $39.99. It's an exclusive offer, so you have to use my code. The code is my first name, Mark. Order today. Visit berries.com, berries.com. Click the microphone in the top right corner, type in Mark. That's berries.com. Click the microphone, enter code MARK. This amazing deal is for today only, and Mother's Day is right around the corner, so take advantage of it immediately. That is right now. All right, let's take some more calls here. I've never seen or heard Mike Lee so passionate, so angry about something as this, like this, the way John Boehner attempted to smear and character assassinate Cruz, and then Pete King piling on. And I would have expected every serious conservative website in America to do something about it, but they don't. They're part of the Washington, Manhattan, New York crowd. They're very proud of it. They'll tell you. That's where they're from. That's who they are. A lot of good people in those areas, but then there's others, too. Todd, Heber City, Utah, the great KKAT. Go.
Hi. 3 quick points. First of all, I finally made contact with my leader. Mike Lee endorses Ted Cruz. Mike Lee is the highest-ranked conservative on Conservative Review. That's a huge validation of his positions. When you don't know somebody, you ask somebody who does know them how he does. We can ask the people of Texas how Ted Cruz did in keeping his word after being elected. He won handily in Texas. This should be a huge point of endorsement. As a point of contrast, Marco Rubio did not win Florida. That tells us that he didn't do what he said he would do. And finally, Ted Cruz won handily in Utah, the same state that elected Mike Lee. What does that tell you?
Well, and I'll tell you this about New York. Ted Cruz got a higher popular vote in the state of Wisconsin, which has a much smaller population, than Donald Trump did in his home state of New York. Wisconsin will be in play in the next election, and New York will not.
There you go.
All right, sir. Thank you for your call. All right, let's take another call, shall we? Craig, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, the great WSBA. Go.
Hey, Mark. Both an honor and privilege to be on with you, I want to say, and to follow Senator Lee for that matter. And I'd just like to say that while I ditto totally the sentiment and have migrated off from Fox onto CNN and other networks, I just want to bring up the point that Fox is under the great false presumption that they think myself, my wife, my family, my friends are going to be returning to them when we hit the general election and so-called coalescing around their network, whomever the candidate may be. I just want to make that point that this is a long-lasting scar, and they will not get my business, in terms of viewership from here on out for possibly eternity.
All right, I'm not encouraging it, but I think Fox is, and they'll have to make a determination. I think people, if they're going to go on cable and pretend to be hosts or pretend to be commentators or whatever, then they ought to say, look, this is who I endorse. I think the same is in radio and the same is in the website world. Stop playing games. People want the truth. People want integrity. Stop pretending that you speak for the people when you don't. You speak for yourself. You speak for a point of view. You speak for some people. All right, Craig, thank you for your call, my friend. Bill, El Paso, Texas, the great KTSM. Go.
Dr. Denali, the Davy Crockett, Martin Luther, and Hank Greenspun of our day.
Oh, thank you, I think.
Not many people probably know about Hank Greenspun, but here
I know about him. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
So I am one of those Fox. I watched Fox for a long time, and I just got tired of the obvious support of Trump. And then when they cut Cruz's mic, and then and then I was on Hannity's show, and then he said, well, something happened, but he didn't apologize. It wasn't anything.
Well, I wouldn't blame Sean for that. He's not the guy with the mic,
True. But you could see, though, it was like that to me was the last straw. And what I was telling the call screener was interesting that I'm actually one of those Nielsen people out there that they send, the ratings questions to. And, I mean, I'm definitely, one that likes to listen to conservative talk radio. And, Mark, you've been such a blessing for me. I am active duty military, and I think, your integrity of just going where the truth leads you and not being afraid of that has meant everything to me. And I really appreciate that. I don't know when I'll be back to Fox.